Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Music Production Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Funk, and this is the show where we talk about all things regarding making music. And on today's show, I think we might be looking into the future here a little bit. I think this is a really exciting topic because I have GPU Audio. I have Sasha and Jonathan who are starting this company, GPU Audio. It's been going. Hello, welcome. I'll let you come in. So this is a really exciting movement because we have, of course, we're always pushing our computers to the limit as music producers. We're adding more effects, more tracks, and then we get a new computer, and then we get effects that demand more power. And it's always this kind of like arms race between the producer and the hardware you're using. GPU Audio is trying to tap into the GPU card, which is the graphics processing unit, I believe is what that stands for. And they're going to harness the power of, I guess, our video cards to do sound. It sounds incredibly fascinating. I think it's might very well be the thing that takes us blasting off into the future. My understanding of it is minimal, so I'm not going to try to explain too much more. And guys, thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about this. Welcome.
Hello. I was waiting to see if Sasha jumps in there. Yeah, it's great to be here. Again, my name is Jonathan. I'm a recent co-founder of the company. I say that only because I'm the new guy in the room. I've been in the company for about a year and a half. Sasha is actually the original CEO or original CTO and CEO of the company, and one of the original co-founders, invented the technology and everything. But anyways, I think I probably relate to a lot of people that might be listening on the West Coast. I come from the LA sort of experimental jazz scene, had a passion for technology, and started venturing into virtual reality sound and immersive audio experiences about 6 years ago. And through that course of time, eventually was always curious about why people aren't using GPUs, for audio. And the answer really lied in the whole issue of parallelization, of audio signals. And I'll let Sasha get more into that on the technical side. But basically I came across GPU Audio on LinkedIn of all places, man. Like LinkedIn, the most useless, social media platform as a musician ever, right? It's like, who puts their music on Richard Devine puts a piece of music on LinkedIn and gets like 5 likes. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, what the hell am I doing on LinkedIn? But I met these guys, and it completely changed my outlook when they sent me the proof, use case and everything. And we went over the demos, and I decided, I have no choice but to work with these guys because this is the future. So that's how I came into the company. And I'm super excited about where we're at now. And Brian, thanks for having us on. And Sasha, I'll let you give your intro.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sasha. I'm co-founder and CEO of GPU Audio. I'm one of the founders of the company, and together with Basil, Markus Steinberger, Basil Samatokin, Markus Steinberger, and Alexander Prokopchuk, we built the technology that we believe will change the world once and forever. And by changing the world, I mean that we will finally unlock the entire powerhouse almost everyone have in their laptops and desktops, and we will make a proper use of GPUs on certain fields that already discovered pretty much everywhere. I mean, like running more plugin instances everywhere at low latencies, as well as exposing the power of GPU and applying it to the new things like machine learning powered fields of applications like adaptive noise canceling and so on, and bringing some spatial audio processing things and more stuff beyond just the pro audio. And we see ourselves as a company that want to be the infrastructural provider for everyone, connecting users and companies together and building new, let's say, next generation of tools and products. So this is what we're all about here.
That sounds very exciting because there's so much we're always trying to do here with our music. And I recently, when Apple came out with the new M1 MacBook Pros, I went against the advice I was seeing on the internet for music producers on buying their laptop to not worry about the graphic card. And I said, you know what? I plan to have this machine for a while. I'm just going to go for it and get it kind of maxed out on that stuff. And you guys are making me feel like I made the good decision for that.
Oh, definitely. I think that's a solid plan. I should say so myself. So it's interesting that you mention, looking at the long term, right, of having a product. I think one of the things that attracted me to GPU audio in the first place, and one of the reasons I want to be in here, helping this company grow. And by the way, my role is, as the chief business development officer. So I'm forming partnerships with plugin companies, artist relationships, just spreading the word and helping us build products, through changing culture and changing, I used to have a little funny nickname with some friends, and it's kind of embarrassing, but they call me the audio prophet, because it kind of seemed like I was always, coming up with an idea, and then 4 or 5 years later, they'd see it implemented and be like, well, wait, weren't you talking about that? And I like to be on the cutting edge of that kind of stuff, because I think that we can affect positive change, like Sasha was saying. But anyways, yeah. So like I was saying, it's interesting that you were talking about wanting to be prepared for the future, right? Because I think in pro audio, we're so used to, you get an update, then you wait a year to update your MacBook, or no knocking on Macs either. I mean, I'm a Mac user, but it's like the way that hardware and the way that plugins and the way that software integrate and the way that they update. I can't speak for everybody out there, but for the types of work that I do in audio, I feel like the performance demands of the new plugins isn't always being met in a timely fashion. You know what I mean? With the digital hardware, the hardware, like the DSP hardware or the digital software that we're using, to run those things. Especially with the way that, digital audio workstations are not updated, super frequently. I think Reaper is like the only one that I use personally that gets updated probably too much. It's like every time I open up Reaper, there's an update, and I'm just, what is going on here? But yeah, it's interesting that you said that, because part of one of the benefits of using a GPU is that, I mean, you've got driver updates like every month, right? Practically, or every few weeks in some cases. And then every year, there's new NVIDIA, especially your NVIDIA and AMD graphics cards that get released. And these are discrete GPUs that can be purchased sometimes for a lot of money, sometimes for a little bit of money, embedded in laptops. They're everywhere. They can be embedded in other technology. And as that hardware grows and gets upgraded, your performance gets upgraded too. So let's say that we have a plugin right now that, based on the current standard of where a GPU is, you could run like 50 instances of a plugin before you, are kind of like capping out on that particular, plugin. Well, in a year, when the GPU doubles in power, guess what? You're going to have, potentially double the headroom. I don't know the exact math on how it would scale, but it's like, the amount of DSP that you can utilize on your system is going to grow every time the hardware gets updated, and GPUs get updated, at least 10x more than like a piece of DSP hardware from a major manufacturer. So being prepared for the future is kind of what we're all about. And, I think I mentioned it when we had our pre-show, chat last week was, one of the things that at the NVIDIA GTC, which is a huge GPU conference, they discussed was, artists always like to push limits. We want to max it out, right? It's like somebody gives us something more powerful, and I'm like, okay, how can we break this? You know what I mean? How can we make it not work anymore? What's the limit, man? And I feel like in this sense, we can push exponential progress in terms of software development, in terms of the types of instruments and plugins that people create. And the relationship with the developers and the artists can get closer and can get faster as a result of just having this sort of backbone infrastructure that's constantly progressing and moving quickly. So we hope that it'll be an encouragement, to the industry as a whole, so serving the purpose of creatives,
Yeah, and I can also add some part of the story about the startup and how we actually end up here with GPUs and making use of GPUs in pro audio field. Originally, like more than 5 years ago, it's about like maybe 8 years already. Basil Smotokin, my co-founder, the first guy, he came to me and was asking like why we can't use graphics cards for the pro audio. And I was the guy working for high frequency trading. back in the days, I just used GPUs to make a lot of simulations, like financial simulations, and make the results of these simulations for the following day of for the following trading day. And he was actually saying why we just can't use it. And I never saw that we will solve a lot of fundamental problems, like making things running in real time with latencies lower than 1 millisecond latency, which is like a golden standard. Golden standard for the pro audio field. And also, I will never figured out back in the days that we will solve some fundamental issues with the DSP algorithms, like because the nature of the algorithms and the nature of the one-dimensional sound is pretty much sequential in most of the algorithms, except like FIR filters and so on. So I was not supposing to actually solving all of those problems before we started the company. And now here today, we believe that the idea behind the GPU audio is not just bringing GPUs to the pro audio field, but actually lowering the price tag of the entire hardware solution. Because like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if you would like to get any kind of acceleration for the professional audio, you have to invest like at least $1,000 up to $5,000 acquiring these external DSP units from Universal Audio, Avid Pro Tools, right? And you can run like tens of tracks depending on particular tracks, and the latency low, but it will be super hard to scale, or it will be impossible to upgrade because they upgrade their hardware once per decade, right? Yeah. And they still are relying on the same hardware like Sharks and Motorola processors, 300 megahertz, like 8 to 18 cores, and so on and so on. And GPUs are got like performance increase double each year, and the latency level, they got latency level less than 1 millisecond starting 2014 with the PCI Express 3.0 standard being released. And since these dates, we figured out how to actually make standard algorithms a good fit for the GPUs and make them run on real time on GPUs. And now we want to create the entire ecosystem of products GPU powered through our own SDK that we also plan to release this year. And our strategy as a company, as I said, we are an infrastructural company. We want to open our SDKs and our feature standards for pretty much everybody, like from individuals and talents who want to bring something new to the world, like something GPU powered, because now the new is almost equal like machine learning based. And as you know, the perfect device for the machine learning is GPU, not the CPU, because machine learning is based on a lot of computing being produced for those convolution neural networks and so on. And you need a lot of power, and you need to handle this power within like 1, 2, 3, 5 millisecond latency window in order to make the recording, right? And we want to prepare this SDKs, and we plan to release these SDKs within a matter of 3 months or so. And we basically want to cooperate with the individuals and SMEs through the SDKs, as well as direct partnerships. And I will let Jonathan tell a little bit more about this strategy, why we believe that openness for everybody will lead the world to its better state. Jonathan?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sasha. It's interesting to hear that story again, you know what I mean? A year later, laid out in that way, because it's like the framing of it is so important. The story used to be just about how, sort of badass the tech is, right? I mean, because it's amazing tech. I mean, people who tried to do this in the past, I think like there was a PhD student who was in our forums on Discord. By the way, we have a Discord channel if anybody wants to hop in and join it. Just hang out and chill with us. But you know, they were talking about this and they were like, okay, you know, this tech in the state of research right now, in the state of research in journals, it says that, you know, running DSP algorithms on a GPU, even audio at its lowest latency is like in excess of 400 milliseconds of latency, right? So it makes sense that, you know, people would be like, you guys are lying. This doesn't, you know, there's no way that this stuff works the way that you say it works. You know, when we're talking about partnerships, you know, we're talking about not only, you know, large plugin manufacturers and things like that, but we're also talking about the indie developer, you know, because, you know, we've all sort of stood by as audio professionals over here. I mean, a vast majority of the people involved in GPU audio are actually musicians from one background or another. I mean, we got, you know, mixing and mastering engineers, live recording specialists, just musicians like me. You know, I was a saxophone player and a sound designer. And you know, people from all different walks of life, but they all kind of had very similar experience. And that experience was, you know, we're trying to continually innovate on what we want to do as artists, and we're constantly being held up by, you know, computer requirements. Or, you know, I had a friend who recently wanted to get into Dolby Atmos, for instance, you know, and you know, as he was doing this, he said, yeah, I'm actually using 3 different workstations to accomplish that. You know, he's using one for the final rendering, he's using one for the tracking, and then he's using some other one as an intermediary, or I can't remember exactly what it was for. But we thought, you know, making this sort of like an open standard that other people can take advantage of really unleashes creativity, you know, and in my opinion, it also unleashes, you know, a more healthy marketplace, you know, looking at the most recent stats, and these have been referenced a few times in some of our documentation, but, you know, we know that based on some SoundCloud statistics and a couple of other statistics, and not even including, you know, Eastern Asia, there's got to be like in excess of 40 million users, right? Like daily musicians or people who are producing audio and uploading that stuff to the internet, right? Wow. That's a lot of people, you know what I mean? And it's not just about like a market, you know what I mean? Because a business is important, but it's like, you know, we're creators first, and it's like, you know, why can't those people have access to the same kind of power, right? So it really that you know, like a major studio would. And that's kind of the beauty of the GPU as a platform, is that, look, because of its scalability, because of the way that you can set it up in servers, and because of the way that you can develop for it, you know, with our SDK that we've created, which is the first ever, you know, GPU based audio SDK in the world. You know, because of those solutions, we can serve the individual person, right, who wants to have extreme power so that they can, you know, do whatever they want to do, and they want to be able to, you know, scale it up as they go. Or you can build a blade server, you know, which is just a server of like a tower of GPUs, and you could power Capitol Records on that. You know what I mean? You could power like some of the biggest post-production studios in the world just on a relatively small blade server that costs a fraction of the price of like a CPU, you know, Mac Pro tower server, right? Mm. So, and that's because of the innovation on parallelization, right? And that parallelization at low latency was the bottleneck that held this back for like the last 10, some people even say 20 years of research, you know? So in that way, that's why I really feel strongly that, you know, making this like an open ecosystem and being open-minded to partnerships is our number one priority. So although we're releasing our own plugins, you know, 80% of the conversations I have during the day happen to be with other developers, you know, and with other companies that want to try to figure out how to do this. And believe me, I've got my bucket list, you know, of companies I would like to work with, you know, to help them integrate and make this a reality. Because as a new standard, I just really, I see the potential there, you know.
I think that's cool that you guys are approaching it that way. Because, Sasha, I think you were kind of referring to like some of the stuff with like the universal audio devices, the interfaces that have all those effects built in, and they're really cool. It's nice that you're offloading all the processing from your computer and you're doing it inside your interface essentially. And I saw a big presentation on that at a studio out here in Brooklyn one time, and it was just like, holy cow. And it was probably about 2014 actually. And we were just like couldn't believe they were putting all this stuff on the computer and doing all these effects and all these things in real time. But you need to have that particular box, and you need to then buy those plugins, and it's that's the limitation there. With what you guys are doing, it's the fact that it'll be open to everybody, really, is really exciting, because that can just kind of change the way we're working all together with all of our devices. I was kind of wondering, do you foresee any kind of new kind of effects or new directions audio could potentially be going now? Because once you start kicking away these limitations, I mean, some of this, like there are devices I use on my computer, but I know I can only really get away with like one or two, or I have to do it. I can't do it in real time because it's got so much latency to it.
Oh, absolutely. Sasha and I have our own versions of the answer to that question, but yeah, it's, people are like, wait, so are you guys trying to port, like regular plugins to just relieve the CPU from having to handle those things, so that, more complex plugins that are only on CPU for right now can do that? Or are you guys trying to create brand new instruments for GPU? And the answer really is both, It depends on the use case. I mean, some people will probably just want to, run all their compressors, all their, reverbs and their EQs and stuff like that on the GPU, and then save the rest of it to be using, like, I don't know, just, like their favorite synthesizer, or maybe running some RX or something like that, But really, that's just the starting place for us, right? Like the end game for us is we want to see new creations, right? We've got some really cool stuff that we're going to try to do to help facilitate that too. We're talking with NVIDIA right now about, co-hosting a hackathon, where we bring together, members of NVIDIA, and we bring together members of the audio DSP development community and have them create, make new creations, things like that. So, I'm very much into the idea of people making something brand new. That's what gets us excited. You know what I'm saying? Is people using our tech to make something that we can never even dream of.
I can add to this that for now we started with the pro audio market, meaning that we started with the early access product, which is GPU FRR Convolver that runs on low latencies. You can run few hundreds of channels on your RTX 3070, 3080 on your laptop-based setup, and this is something that was not the case before us. So we just want to give everybody a feeling, the taste of the power unlocked and yet mobile. And the point is, the pro audio is not just the industry we target. We just started with this industry, and the entire technology, the core library, we call it scheduler, and the DSP library that works on the top of the scheduler. This is something that could be used for the game audio. This could be used in such tools like Omniverse. And this is something that we see could connect more than just pro audio. This can connect pro audio with the other worlds, as I said, like metaverse and the other stuff. And we see this thing could be potentially integrated pretty much everywhere. And we see this is how we can also connect audio professionals with the other worlds seamlessly, because now it's all about DAWs, it's all about VST3 audio unit, maybe AX and so on, and it is completely separated. And Omniverse and other stuff like Unreal Engine, Unity, this is more than just audio there, and this is more than just game audio engines and so on. Look at Mandalorian, for example. Mandalorian was produced partially in like the entire virtual world instruments. They recreated some characters and some other stuff. They worked collaboratively together within cloud-based projects, etc., etc. This is kind of the thing we want to bring ultimately for everybody with the time, GPU powered. And we are going to make this thing happening step by step, from bringing some plugins, our own made, making them available this summer, then making some new plugins, just great plugins running on GPUs. I mean, migrating best-selling product plugins from the CPU, reducing the CPU usage to the GPU, as well as creating something absolutely new. I don't know, like imagine voice mode stuff running for the professional audio DOS, just changing the voice, I don't know, for the filmmakers, or bringing the RTX voice quality level product to the professional audio. Sorry, Isotope, but NVIDIA also does a good product, but the problem with RTX voice, it works with the 20 to 50 millisecond latency, and we can get it running at like 300 microsecond latency, you know. And the thing is, we can bring all of that thing, and we want to do that step by step, leading the developers community and showing them the way how to do it with the SDKs, or how we can do that together by directly partnering with each other. I mean, the companies or even individuals. And our target is to actually build more products and connect them together, and see how else we can run them together, maybe in cloud at some point, you know. So this is like the ultimate goal of the company.
That kind of, I guess, maybe gets to and goes beyond the next thing I was going to ask you, because I'm sort of envisioning, like, I'm playing my synthesizer and, like, you know, my plugin, say, and like I'm also getting visuals generated. There's some kind of graphical component to it, but I guess you're really looking at more like a much deeper connection across all kinds of platforms and stuff we haven't even seen yet or thought of.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like imagine, you know, I would say, like, just imagine real quick, you know, what if the VST3 wasn't only able, like, what if your plugins in general, not just VSTs, what if they weren't relegated to the world of a digital audio workstation, right? What if the digital audio workstation wasn't relegated to the world of, you know, pro audio, right? What if there weren't, you know, what if you were able to interconnect all of these different worlds across virtual production, you know what I mean, with audio workflows and things like that? Some of that is already happening, you know, it's still in its infancy in that technology. But there's no underlying, you know, technological standard that makes that possible, right? Everybody's hacking together stuff. Our vision for that started, you know, in Sasha's case, 8 years ago, right? You know, how can we create a standard to make that kind of a future actually viable and possible? So that's the stuff that gets me super excited, you know what I mean? And it's the stuff that, unfortunately, we can't get super deep into some of the plans that we do have, but you know, like Sasha was saying, you know, we're well on our way to making this stuff cloud compatible, and you know, some of the cool features that are coming too. And I know that we're talking all about the future, and there was a guy on LinkedIn recently that I follow who posted something about, talk about what you can do now, not about, you know, everything you plan on doing. Otherwise people think you're, you know, not legit. But you know, we're just futurists, right? So we're just excited about it. But yeah, like in the future, you know what I mean? We have the ability, because of, you know, parallel processing, to do continuous rendering, right? So what that means is that your audio is rendered the minute that it's heard, I guess you would say, by the GPU. That means that you don't have to sit there and export audio anymore, right? Just that simple feature alone, as like a kernel of technology, you know, or like a grain of sand in the jar, like a seed, right? Like from that seed, what kind of products could grow from that, right? So that's generally how we kind of approach the partnership conversation about the future, and about, you know, things like metaverse or whatever it is, like Sasha was saying, is, you know, let's take this one feature that we're talking about that we developed that's innovative, and let's see, you know, how many different branches could that go into, right? And then not only how many branches could it result, like let's say the branches are the products, right? But let's say that the roots are how that interconnects with other systems, right? So there's on two levels, you know, where one single core idea can go, right? And that's just like the organic nature of creating a standard that can be interoperable across different types of platforms, you know, from AWS, you know, all the way down to just a local computer. But that's the future, and here we are now. So no one's going to be able to try that out right away, but it is something that's working and in development.
I bet that could be really interesting for live performance cases too, where you can, if all this stuff is able to happen in real time, we're gonna what like theater and music composition all going on at once, happening to get. I don't know. That's why I'm glad there's guys like you thinking about this stuff. I'll be the person to use it, but
I mean, I've got one nerdy idea that you'd probably appreciate. What if somebody were to create, and I'm not going to be the one to do this, right? But maybe someone listening could create the world's largest modular synthesizer, right? Like a digital modular synth where everybody's patching in the metaverse,
right?
Just like with infinite power, because it could be leveraging like an NVIDIA server of like, billions or millions of processing cores, right? So it's just like the possibilities really are limitless in that way. But kind of grounding it back to where we're at, like Sasha was saying, we started with this early access, and sort of the goal of the early access program is to begin the conversation with the community, let them know that this stuff exists, show them that it works. We can find out where it doesn't work or where there's bugs, work those kinks out in the meantime on a very limited product. And then in 2 months, when the beta rolls out, we'll have a bunch of really cool announcements, about other partnerships, like a spatial audio collaboration, which is our first collaboration that we're doing. And from there, it's just going to snowball into more cool projects.
That sounds pretty exciting. Sasha, I think maybe you might have wanted to come in there for a second.
Yeah. So first of all, I wanted to wrap it up, everything that Jonathan was saying, that the idea, like technical idea behind that things running on GPU is that because GPUs are also running not just inside your laptop, desktop machine, but also in cloud, all the things that will ever created using GPU audio, like SDK library and so on, can be run pretty much everywhere. So if you're supposing, like if you're an SME, some kind of the company, you want to run a new service, web service, collaborative service that does a very specific thing, like continuously rendering all of the projects and making the render button disappear because of the limitless power of GPU, and you're continuously re-rendering any user edits. This can bring the entire new way how people they do their daily work. Like you don't need to wait for your hardware for the work to be done. And this is only available with this limitless scalable power of GPU somewhere in cloud. And the point is, it completely changes the way people also do their work, like collaborative work, because now there are some ways of do the remote work. For example, that there is audio movers. Yeah, they can do through their WebSockets. They can do collaborative projects in your DOS, compensating the latency. Well, it works. There is this foundation, the DAW that works in your browser, and you can just do mostly post-production cases and scenarios there. And you're always limited with some things, like you need to upload, you need to sync, you need to download, you need to set up things, and so on and so on. And all of those limitations still exist because you have no DSP power in the cloud, actually. So there is no processing happening in the cloud. And with GPU audio, this is the first attempt to bring the DSP power scalable, limitless to the cloud. And any product that will build with GPU audio as a backend, it can bring some absolutely new value proposition to users and both businesses, because it's literally unlocks the entire set of opportunities. And we are here offering that to both users and both businesses to build something absolutely new. As I said, like we can make the render button disappear. Imagine you have Adobe Audition. They do this background rendering thing, but because they are doing this using the CPU, and because the CPU is used for running pretty much everything, not just the DOS, but also operating system processes and so on and so on, this feature works not so really well. But imagine if you can use your DSP GPU somewhere in the cloud, and all of the users work with the same audio project, they can render their changes almost immediately, like this kind of feature. And GPU audio opens more than just these features. It just depends on the way you want to build your product. Machine learning powered product, no problem. If you want to train more neural networks and just use our SDK to run it, it is also the case. So we open the opportunities, and the community, I mean, both developers and users, decide what the future will look like, and not like the 5 years future, but the very next future, the very next year. So we see ourselves as a company that provides this level of opportunities to the industry.
Now, would that be something we could apply to, say, this very conversation we're having here? Because right now I'm in New York. Jonathan, I think you're in California.
Yeah, Orange County. Yeah.
And Sasha's in Dubai.
I'm in Dubai.
So we are dealing with a little bit of latency that hopefully isn't too distracting, and I'll try to clean that up in the edit a little. But is this something that would apply even in like a situation like this, where since it's happening in the cloud, that our communication
definitely
be a little more? Because when I do a podcast, even if I'm doing it someone down the street, there is always a little bit of a latency over Zoom. Maybe it's like half a second each way, and I can see it sometimes when I edit the audio. And if my headphones are picking up the voice, and I line them all up, and I see, oh, they're not hearing me right away, you know. That would, I mean, even that, because when we were all in lockdown, everyone was looking for a way to play music with people, and it didn't seem like there was an answer that was quite so satisfying for everyone, that was fast enough to accommodate the, timing is everything in music.
Definitely. And we didn't hack Einstein's laws. Like we can't change that, right? The thing is, there are workarounds, so they can collaborate immediately without re-exporting stuff, etc., etc. They can hear everything happening everywhere. So we see this is the only future possible with GPU audio, and we are going to define it. So for now, we're at the point when we want to create those plugins and those tools that will be part of this collaborative solution in the future. So the very first big step, the very first year, is to make more and more and more plugins, tools, GPU powered. And then we'll see how we can bring them all into some kind of new next generation tool, whether it will be DAW, collaborative DAW, or whether it will be a thing connects audio professionals with the metaverse, with the other professionals. We don't know yet. But what we know certainly is that it will be backward compatible in terms of technology. Like if we are going to make the integration with Unity, it will work there. Like everything that is happening in Unity. If we will do the implementation for the Omniverse through the USD format, so-called very famous one, we will bring the professional audio to the 3D world, to the 2D world, already collaborative. Like people who work with the 3D projects, they're already collaborative like 3 years already. And audio professionals are far away from that point. So we see that the technology and hardware could really unlock professionals, the new ways they are doing their job and the way they're actually earning the money, so to say. So this is yet another mission of our company, to provide the new level of experience to the users through the new generation of tools, starting with plugins and then with something more than just that.
Yeah, and as just as an addendum to that, like super brief addendum, is it's not only just a benefit for the users, but for the companies, for companies who want to make plugins this way. It's like it's future-proofing your plugins, essentially, is what it's doing. It's making your plugins so that they can be ported to the metaverse. They can be ported to online play. They can be ported to game engines in meaningful ways that have not existed before, especially in regards to collaboration. So that's how we're designing everything with that in mind. You know what I mean? With the future in mind, where we want to go.
Absolutely. The very first SDKs will be integrated with the DAWs through the VST3 and audio unit wrappers. And then, depending on how the community prefers to actually integrate with the other parts of the meta world, we'll go to the Unity, or we'll go to the Omniverse, or we'll go somewhere else. So it just depends on that.
Wow. So you're almost like so there's all the talk of the metaverse now, this new world that Facebook or Meta, whatever we call them now, is starting to create. I mean, it sounds like you're going to have like legit DAWs in there and film studios in these worlds as well.
Well, it's an interesting concept, right? Like if the world really is going towards Web3, right? And if the music industry is pushing artists to do NFTs and Web3 integration just for music itself, for the distribution and consumption of the product, then, it makes sense, I think, that a lot of developers, need to kind of be having their eyes on this stuff too. And I think they are. I think they're just not super vocal about it because they just maybe don't know how to do it yet. It's definitely like an open air concept, but that's where I feel we're really fortunate to be working on the back end of that. We're working on the infrastructure. Right. We're working on the skeleton that you need to, or like the frame of the car. You know what I mean? We're building the frames, we're building the engines, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because they're already putting so much into developing their software. And like we mentioned, how we have to all wait like a year before we can update anything, because even I'm still waiting for plugins to catch up to like the M1 Mac and all this. So there's so many resources going into all of that stuff that it's probably pretty risky to put the gamble on some of these new kind of not necessarily I guess like tried and tested things that people aren't quite there yet using themselves. So to put all those resources into that probably doesn't make much sense yet. But to have you guys doing that is nice, that you can then say, hey, we figured out how we're going to put this together for you. So you can port your stuff here, and now you can put your plugin in the metaverse version of Ableton Live.
Well, the industry cannot just produce more content by hiring more professionals with the same hardware, software setups they have today, right? They need next generation solutions that actually change the workflows, daily workflows, and these next generation tools, they will allow users, audio creators, create more content faster, and this is what we also aiming for. And we want to provide the platform to build this kind of the tools, because we want to build not just the plugins and not just like the way these plugins could be connected in the cloud, but we also want to connect these tools to the other spaces like metaverse, but not like metaverse for consumers when they can just run the avatar in the world and so on and so on. But it's more like omniverse, when the professionals, creators can co-create, like 3D editors can co-create with the audio editors and so on and so on. So we see that continuously increasing amount of content, and this future of this continuously increasing amount of content is possible only with the next generation of tools. You cannot grab your Avid Pro Tools old stuff anyhow to boost that movement. You see, that's just nearly impossible. You can't build any interface on the top of that in order to make this future happen. So that's why we are here. We want to power up the future, and we want to power up more tools, allowing people create more, and finally to, vanish the limits of creativity,
So where do you guys like to send people to check out what's going on with GPU audio?
Well, so yeah, like we said, I mean, it's really fun to talk about where this is going because we're in partnership season, trying to bring people in. But I consider partnerships also users, right? Like people who want to try out the tech. As I mentioned before, we really see, this period of time is like really, really important to the foundation, of the company, but also of the standard itself, right? Of the tech itself. If the tech was a person, right? Like we want to introduce you guys to this person. We want to, have you get to know them. They want to get to know you, right? So it's like, we started an early access program, and this early access is a lot like a video game early access. There's bugs expected, bugs desired, right? We want to find the bugs. We're not here to try to impress people by saying, here's a bug-free product, right? It's like we're taking a risk with this community to try to get people involved so that they can help us find out where are the performance bottlenecks. Are you getting a CPU spike or a GPU spike on this particular GPU? How can we adjust the driver support, to kind of address those issues? We're testing across a bunch of different DAWs. We're testing, on a bunch of different, GPU builds and stuff like that, and PC builds. Right now, the early access program can be accessed by going to, just earlyaccess.gpu.audio is the website. So again, earlyaccess.gpu.audio. And if you sign up there, there's a Discord channel or a Discord server. The Discord server is where we interact with people. We're posting jobs there for people looking to work in this field. We're posting, a bunch of different stuff. The plugin itself is an impulse response plugin. It's an FIR impulse response convolution reverb. You can load your own convolutions into it and, test it out. It actually sounds beautiful. I've been having a lot of fun with it on my PC. I've been running, maybe in excess of 100 stereo tracks within that 1 millisecond latency. So it's been interesting to stress test it, use it on a couple of projects already, although generally I don't recommend using an early access product on a pro thing that you have to deliver to somebody. This really is pre-beta. So yeah, earlyaccess.gpu audio or gpu.audio is where to go. When you sign up for early access, for people who participated, there's going to be a little gift that we send out at some point. You guys will also get preferred access to the beta suite when it comes out in May and June, sort of in that crossover period right there. And you'll have all the latest news and updates. You'll be able to engage in discussions with, the DSP team, the VSD3 team, the business development team. And that's definitely the best place to go for right now. And yeah, we're really excited about all the new stuff coming. But early access is our path forward. And that's actually where we're going to be testing Mac support, M1 support, AMD support, audio unit support. All of that's going to be sort of working through the early access as we go, even when the beta is officially released.
That's excellent. And I think it's cool that you guys are letting people in there early just to see and get a taste. And like you said, first impression of a person, like first impression of the company. I like that open, kind of honest approach. I think that's really cool. It's exciting. I think it's going to lead to things that I can't even imagine, but I'm going to probably, benefit from in the long run.
Oh, I'm super excited about it. And anybody who's part of the early access already who might be hearing this episode with Brian here, it's, thanks for being part of it. We've had over 2,000 or about 2,000 people sign up in the last week and a half or so. And before that, we had a couple thousand signed up. So it's been awesome. The Discord server has almost 500 people now interacting and talking and, sending DMs and, kind of building culture there. So it's been a joy, man. And this is what we live for, is building an enthusiast community, around us. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And thanks for hosting us. It's been really fun to talk and kind of, share with somebody who actually is really into this, and sees the potential. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for taking the time.
Thank you, Brian. And for everyone that is listening for this podcast, I also wanted you to follow us at Facebook and Twitter. It's simply GPU Audio pages. And also recently we participated at NVIDIA GTC, where we posted our half-an-hour video explaining how the technology works, what kind of the fundamental problems, both mathematical and computer science problems we solved. So maybe for those professionals who are in the middle between the being the audio producer and the audio developer, you may find a lot of the answers. So you can find this easily: NVIDIA GTC, GPU Audio, GTC 2022. Find this video, or just simply join Discord and ask for the link, and you can go through it and watch it.
We could put all that in the show notes for people so they can just click on it too, so to make it easy for them.
Thanks, everybody. Please join us. Please join the beta. Please submit for the box. We have a lot of them. We don't have so many GPUs as you have. So that's why we need you. We need you to build in our future together. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys very much. Hey, if you enjoyed the Music Production Podcast, please consider giving it a review on your favorite podcast provider and share it with a friend, somebody that you think might enjoy the show and get something out of it. That would mean a lot to me. And if you want to check out more of my work, including sound packs, tutorials, etc., head over to brianfunk.com. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.